Clemson's starting to look like a team who remembers who they are. We'll talk about it right here on Locked on Clemson.
You are Locked on Clemson, your daily podcast on the Clemson Tigers. Part of the Locked on Podcast Network, your team every day.
What's up, Tiger fans? Morgan Thomas here, Clemson fan, Clemson grad, host and producer of Locked on Clemson, part-time host and producer over on 105.5 FM The Roar. Thank you so much for making Locked on Clemson your first listen of the day. We're part of the Locked on Podcast Network, your team every day. And to the everydayers out there, a big salute to you. Thank you for tuning in again here right on the Monday show. And if you're new to the show, well, welcome in. Hope you enjoy it. Hit that like and subscribe button if you do. About 75% of you are not yet subscribed. So get in there, get subscribed so you never miss another episode. By the way, this episode is brought to you by Mazda. Like our players, we sweat every detail because when you make every move count, pulling off the unexpected is only the beginning. Stay tuned later for highlights in this week's Moving the Game Forward. Mazda, move and be moved. Well, Clemson started out pretty well in Chestnut Hill. It wasn't just a fast start. They kind of look like a team that maybe remembers who they are and getting better every single week. And we said that this was what was important for Clemson coming out of the bye week into two road games. Road games are never easy, but these two teams were definitely beatable teams. Clemson needed to come out strong, quickly, show that they knew what they could do at the beginning of the game, control the game early, and then they needed to win those games, in my opinion, win them above or over the spread, which they have been able to do now for both weeks against the Tar Heels and against the Eagles in Boston College. Clemson has handled business. Now, I want to put something on the shelf here for this episode and the rest of this week because we can ultimately argue everything as, well, these teams are no good. I mean, we probably could argue that until, I don't know, maybe for the rest of the year, you could probably be that fan that argues these teams are no good. But these are teams. They are in the conference, and they're not guaranteed wins, as we know from the previous games that they've had in their conference that they didn't win. So what is Clemson doing well? What are they building off of? And what can we have confidence in regardless of who the opponent is? That's what I want to look at here because, yes, Boston College is a beatable team, but it's not guaranteed that you cover the spread, and they did. It's not guaranteed you blow them out. 41 points, by the way, highest point total so far this season, and dominate on defense as well. When you look at just the start of the game, it was a very clean start because Clemson held the ball for over 11 minutes. That's another thing that you really can't take for granted, considering what we've been through this season. Clemson has struggled with controlling time of possession, and they did so again to start out this game. They finished the game having the ball longer than Boston College, but really it started at the very beginning of the game with 11 minutes, outgaining Boston College as well, 146 yards to 38 yards, and ran 22 plays to Boston College 9 plays. If you maybe missed the game and you want to go check out the extended highlights over on YouTube, you don't see much BC highlights. And that, to me, is a win. Cade, also extremely clean in the first quarter, 10 for 11 and 101 yards. Extremely balanced and efficient in the opening drives of this game. And so I'm really enjoying what we're seeing from Garrett Riley, from Cade Klubnik, and this offense so far. Things are working better than they have been in the past. The rhythm looks really good. You're seeing really good throws to Antonio Williams, who, as you can tell, he loves to get out open in space. If you can hit him in stride, which Cade was able to do on 2 occasions, hit him in stride. He had 4 catches for 45 yards in the first quarter. And when he hit him in stride, man, he got a ton of yards after the catch. and was really difficult to tackle. Add that into the balance with Adam Randall and him being able to run. Wasn't as successful again running the ball with Adam Randall by himself, but they spread the ball around this weekend, and so it made Clemson very unpredictable. Converted a couple of fourth downs as well. Stayed on schedule. They wore down Boston College's defense and really just dominated the entire game. They had a 13-play drive in the first quarter, and that was a lot in part with Cade Klubnik just keeping that ball going. Now, there were a few things that we saw that we liked and we didn't like. I'll talk about some of the fixes in the second segment. But really what I liked so far was Cade, again, staying in the pocket. It looks like he's surveying the field. I will say that he started out going to the outside. He missed a couple of over-the-middle passes where the guys were wide open. There was one to Olsen Pat Henry that would have been wide open, but he got a completion to someone else. So he missed probably the biggest yards, but still got a completion and moved the ball down the field. There was another one with Tyler Brown across the middle of the field. Tyler Brown was, I don't even know if there was anybody 30 yards around him. Didn't see it. He also kind of, I feel like he's a little bit cautious when there's a middle linebacker in between him and the guy going across the middle. Although I do believe Cade Klubnik can kind of arch it over that middle linebacker, it seemed as if he was a little bit hesitant to do so at the beginning of the game, opting for more of those outside passes, which still weren't bad passes. They were completed and they moved the chains. He had that one to Wesco, I believe, in that scenario. So I like what Cade was able to do. And he later on in the first quarter still started to kind of settle in and start to hit guys running across the middle like Antonio Williams, who got a ton of yards after the catch. So Cade seems to settle down a little bit. The offensive line, you have to continue to applaud what they've been doing so far because they've settled down themselves. They're going back to, and I don't want to say more basic because I really don't know, but I do want to say that it seems that they're putting a priority on stopping that first line of attack first. Before they get to the second level, they're making sure that somebody has put some pressure on some of those guys in the front line, put some hands on some of those guys on the front line, everybody that is accounted for on that front line. And then once they are able to move forward with that momentum up to the next level, they are doing so. So they're not just skipping guys like they have been in the beginning of the season. To me, that is a testament to adjustments from Garrett Riley and what he is asking his players to do, and from Matt Luke and what he's coaching during the week in practice. The offensive line got much better. When you look at the first quarter as a whole, I'm kind of really focusing today on the Monday show on the beginning of the game. But when you look at the first quarter and in silo, they did really well putting hats on those guys in the front before they moved to the next level. And so they were able to have success not only with the traditional passing game and Cade sitting in the pocket, but they also, did you notice that they got out open in space and got a couple of screen passes that were for some big yardage? A lot of things that you can really like. Again, the defense really wasn't on the field that much, shut them down a ton, 38 yards gained and only 9 plays. So the defense really wasn't on the field that much to start the game, which is exactly what you want from a Tom Allen defense, from a Clemson defense. And they've been improving themselves week over week. Now, there were a few times here and there where they let out a bigger chunk play here and there, but overall, a fantastic start for Clemson, spreading the ball around to a bunch of different receivers, staying balanced, and doing the little things properly and just marching down the field. We'll continue to talk about the start of the game and some things that I'd still like to see cleaned up as we go through our review of the Boston College game in this episode of Locked On Clemson. This episode is brought to you by Mazda's moving the game forward. For those who believe it's not just about playing the game, it's about redefining it. There are moments that do more than put points on the board. They move crowds, move culture, and keep moving the game forward. This week's moment that moved the game forward was Adam Randall's 8-yard touchdown drive up the middle, giving the Tigers a 10-0 lead. To me, it was a momentum setter because Clemson had already controlled the first possession, 13-play drive, and only came away with a field goal. But the scoring the touchdown on the very next drive validated that the game plan was working and the design was straightforward, super simple, right up the middle, powerful blocking up front from Sadler and Linthicum, a clean lane for Adam Randall to power through and get to that goal line with a physical finish that reflected what Clemson is trying to do as they continue to stack up wins this season. So when you follow what moves you, the unexpected is only the beginning. And just like there's more to every highlight, there's more to a Mazda vehicle. Mazda, move and be moved. All right, welcome back into Locked On Clemson. And for every great quarter or start to the game, there's always some things. There's always little things here and there, one habit, one play, one mistake, or something that shows, Clemson still has a few things to work on. And again, we're parking lot what I said earlier on in segment 1, because it really does us no good to just say that Boston College is no good, which they aren't a very good team, but they are better than the Tar Heels. And so Clemson had a better result against a team that was actually a little bit better. So to me, it shows that Clemson's game plan and their preparation and their practicing is starting to pay off and work a little bit. And I love, again, what we're seeing with the spreading around of the ball. We're seeing big plays from Bryant Wesco. We're seeing big plays from Antonio Williams. We're seeing scoring drives and powerful runs from Adam Randall. We're seeing the offensive line that is bruising guys. And we actually even saw, the tight ends getting involved, and Olsen Pat Henry and some other guys in there. So a lot to like from the first quarter and the start of the game. Because remember, we've been in a spot where Clemson looked like they were completely lost. They didn't know what they wanted to do. They had no success at the beginning of the games and were struggling and were getting behind at the beginning of games. So I love what we're seeing so far from this rebound, this stacking of wins that Clemson is trying to do. But even in that, what we like to see, there's a few things that Clemson will need to continue to work on as they get more and more down this schedule and get to teams that are more and more difficult. Little mistakes show up for sure. I would say the one that kind of frustrates you for sure is having a 13-play drive, or really a 12-play drive, where Clemson is kind of marching down the field, and then Cade takes a sack on third down, trying to scramble. I don't know if the play call just wasn't good in that scenario, or if he wasn't seeing something right, but it kind of went back to Cade was trying to scramble outside and got sacked, and, was not able to escape all of the pressure. But it did set up for a field goal, and Nolan Hoosier nailed it. And it wasn't that, it was a pretty far field goal, 46-yarder for him. So, not an easy one by any stretch of the imagination, but still, one of those things where I'd like to see those longer sustained drives end up with, more than having to score a 46-yard field goal. You would think a 13-play drive would have been something where you're in the red zone pushing for some sort of touchdown, but they really didn't get close enough, So that one was one. Avion Terrell got a pass interference that really kind of kept Boston College alive. If he wouldn't have had that, you could have possibly had no points in the first half for BC. Anytime you get into those scenarios, and I don't want to beat up Avion Terrell because, he's been great this season, but just little things here and there that they can clean up. There were a few times where Turbo Richard got out. I didn't really necessarily like that. I didn't really want to see Boston College beat up Clemson in the run game. He had 75 yards. and 4.2 yards per carry. So that was a little bit frustrating for me. I would have expected Clemson to kind of lock him down a little bit better, but overall, they didn't have much outside of him, 85 total rushing yards. So really, they let him kind of have a couple of big plays, but outside of that, shut him down for the most part. So, he wasn't able to kind of really be too much of a factor for them outside of really, later on at the end of the first half. But they blanked him. The defense didn't allow any type of score in the third or fourth quarter. So it's hard for me to kind of beat up the Clemson defense. I know I'm really kind of being nitpicky at this point. Clemson, of course, was in full control from the start, and that's what you want. The only Boston College drive that really seemed to hurt them was one that was aided with a chunk play and the pass interference. So overall, a successful first half or first quarter of the game. Clemson's red zone, to me is improving as well. Championship teams continue to find ways to just not only take control of games like they're doing, but just completely dominate. Clemson had a lot of rhythm. They, didn't leave a ton of points on the board, in my opinion. Defensively, they didn't have a ton of just boneheaded mistakes or frustrations or bad tackles. So overall, I felt like it was still a good game for Clemson, and one that they can keep building on and keep fighting forward. That was, I believe, the only sack allowed in the game as well for the Tigers. But the best quarter by far, best first start of the season by far comes against Boston College. And I really can't state that it doesn't hurt that it was an away game either. I know that Boston College doesn't bring a ton of fans. I think there was a joke out there that's saying that their Hannafins brought 200 friends and family there. So that was pretty cool. But yeah, Clemson, if you look at the first quarter as a whole, owned the first quarter. It wasn't flawless, but honestly, that's okay. I mean, Avion Terrell had that pass interference. It's about 15 yards, right? And then you had the 18-yard run back to back. But then Clemson's defense really locked back down again and handled the rest of the quarter. A near perfect start for them, held them totally to 38 yards, and really only had that one field goal at the end of the first quarter. So, really, Clemson, even when they stubbed their toe and took that sack on third down, they were able to drill a big time field goal. And Clemson, even with some of the bigger chunk plays, stopped them to a field goal. So overall, I mean, you can't really be too frustrated or upset with how the Tigers started this game and settled in quickly. Again, a road game late at night, wading through everything. I love what Tom Allen has been doing. He's kind of mixing it up a little bit better, throwing in some different looks. We saw even Jaheim Lawson as a defensive tackle, which you would think that there's no way that's going to work, but it's just working because of his just level of effort, and energy. Clemson's touchdown going into the, what I would call the first quarter, but really the start of the second quarter was kind of the end of the drive with Peter Woods running in and the entire offensive line just rallying around him. These are the kind of things that are going to that just show me that Clemson is still a great team, a good team that has a lot of good young men on it that believe in each other and want to support each other. And there hasn't been too much infighting, in the locker room or finger pointing, and everything has been kind of settled in a little bit for this team. So, there are a lot of teams out there that are panicking, as we're seeing it with James Franklin being fired today. There are a lot of teams that are extremely frustrated and seem to be losing control. And Clemson, while they did not start the season the way they wanted to, kind of has settled in and has shown us that Dabo is really truly a great leader of young men that not everybody can do, So Clemson has something that is special, and we can't forget that. All right, I'm going to finish up the show, segment 3 right here, Locked on Clemson. The NFL season is here, and FanDuel has an offer that you don't want to miss. Right now, new customers can bet just $5 and get $300 in bonus bets if you win. That's right. Pick a bet, put down $5, and if it hits, you'll unlock $300 in bonus bets to use across the app. I love FanDuel because it's quick and simple, easy to use. You can go check in and see what's happening across all different kinds of sports. You can do fantasy, you can do golf, you can do football, baseball, basketball, whatever. There's college football. There's all kinds of stuff on there. So it doesn't have to just be NFL, but man, the NFL right now is pretty exciting. A lot of action that you can get in on. And they have a research site on FanDuel.com where even if you're a casual fan like myself on some of these sports, you can go in and maybe find a way and find a deal in there and a good bet for you. So what are you waiting for? Visit FanDuel.com and download the FanDuel app today to get started. This episode is also brought to you by Monarch Money. Most people can't name all of their financial accounts or even what they're worth, whether it's 401ks, properties, or investments. And when you don't have the full picture, you can end up leaving money on the table. And that's where Monarch Money comes in. It's an all-in-one personal finance tool that brings your entire financial life together in one clean, easy-to-use interface on your laptop or your phone. Monarch is built for people with busy lives like you and me. If we put off organizing our finances, well, Monarch is for you. Monarch does the heavy lifting for you. You can link all of your accounts in minutes, see clear data visuals, and get smart categorization of your spending, and finally feel in control of your money without ever touching a spreadsheet. I told you I used to do spreadsheets, but when I got into flight school and I left my corporate job, man, I had to turn things around and make sure I looked at every single penny and make sure I knew what was happening because I was on a limited budget, and Monarch Money helped me with that. So don't let financial opportunities slip through the cracks. Use code LOCKEDONCollege at monarchmoney.com in your browser for half off your first year. That's 50% off your first year at monarchmoney.com with code LOCKEDONCollege. All right, segment number 3. Hey, thank you so much for sticking with me. Yeah, I know if you're an everydayer, you are here with me, so no question there. But if you're a newbie and you're here with me, thank you so much. And hit that like and subscribe button so you never miss another episode. Exclusive Clemson content Monday through Friday every single week. You know how we do it here on Locked On, and a lot of other teams and episodes and shows out there as well for Locked On. So great content. But what does this game really tell us about Clemson? Well, it tells us that there are some things that we are seeing that Clemson is able to correct or has been able to kind of work on and improve. The offensive script at the beginning of these last 2 games has been much better. The reads have been better. The tempo's been better. The balance between Wesco, Williams, Randall, Bentancur, TJ Moore in there. I mean, there have been a good balance between the different players, and it's really kind of opened my eyes just how many weapons that Clemson has. And it is unfortunate that the Tigers have taken so long and have lost a couple of games, or a few games rather, at this point to kind of see that. But it does feel like that Garrett Riley is starting to understand what he has and what players he can use when. And Cade is also getting a little bit more confident with that as well. As I mentioned in segment 1, the offensive line looks much more confident. 11 rushes for 42 yards, kept the pocket pretty clean. Even the sack was really a scramble sack. So the offensive line, when I went back and watched the first quarter, there was not a lot of missed blocks. There was not a lot of whiffs or just complete domination or just offensive linemen on their butts. For the first part of this season, we saw a lot of offensive linemen just falling flat on their butt. And Tristan Lee was taken out of the game, I believe, because of an injury. And Braden Jacobs came in and did a great job. I mean, he's such a physical presence. He's so big and powerful that I'm not really understanding why they don't have him on the field regardless, because he's just so athletic. And yes, he is still young, but he's just pushing dudes around and getting to spots very quickly. So I love what we're seeing from the offensive line. They look much more confident, and they may have just kind of simplified it a little bit and made sure that the focus is, hey, hit the first guy first, get them in check, put some hands on them, and then work your progression up the field before you do that. They also have shown some versatility getting out open in space as well. In those screenplays were a few where there were a lot of people out there that allowed for the screenplay to work. So the offensive line has definitely improved along with the offensive play calling in general. And the defense, we talk a ton about the offense because, they've been the biggest problem so far, but the defense held them to just 3 minutes, 43 seconds in the first quarter, limited to BC to just 1 first down until the very final drive of the quarter. And also, held them to just a field goal after giving up 2 chunk plays. So it was kind of a good result to that drive. Tom Allen being on the sideline, to me, has significantly improved accountability, correction in the moment, and just hype. Seeing him out there and seeing him encouraging his players and being as excitable and in your face as he is exactly where he needs to be. Much better success so far being on the field than up in the box. So you like what you're seeing from Tom Allen's group, progressively getting better week in and week out. And it kind of goes back to, hey, Clemson does have some good players. They just weren't necessarily using them the way that they probably should have. And that's kind of the frustration too, is like, why did this staff or this team not figure this stuff out? And maybe just maybe there is that one thing that I said we won't talk about, but we have to see as Clemson continues to go through the season. Is it just playing bad teams? Maybe so. There's some of that, I'm sure. But ultimately, we have to take what we're seeing and be appreciative of what they've been able to do to improve the team going forward. Klubnik staying in rhythm. Antonio Williams is back to a chain mover, a game changer. Garrett Riley seems to have found a good formula to start games off. And the aggression was put on for this game. It didn't seem like they took a bunch of players out in order to get them playing time. They kept the foot on the gas pedal and ended up winning by 31 points, overall. So hopefully this becomes the new normal for Clemson, and they can continue to kind of change this narrative and stack the wins. Is it proof of concept? Yeah, to me, it's proof that the staff has been able to take their criticism and feedback and change what they've been doing. Now it's all about consistency and what they can keep doing and sustain as the season gets further down and the opponents maybe get a little bit more challenging as we go. But again, another great game for Clemson, good win for Clemson. They get to come home this weekend to play SMU in an ACC championship rematch. Now, both teams are not the same as what we saw from last season, but it's still going to be a heated game that you should look forward to watching. Hopefully another win and another one where Clemson can start that home winning streak again back, because again, they lost it against Syracuse. So, hey, thank you again for being a part of the show today and for making Locked On Clemson your first listen. For your second listen, don't forget to check out Locked On ACC with Kenton Gibbs and Alex Donna, breaking down the most interesting conference in college sports, from the rivalries to the championships to every game in between. Find Locked On ACC on YouTube or wherever you listen to podcasts. And as always, Tiger fans, we'll see you tomorrow, and we'll see you at the top of the hill.